Hello, everybody. Welcome to the KO podcast. My name is Tyler Russo, and I am here with UFC Flyweight Miranda Maverick. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Tired, but ready to go again.
Yep, that's great. This is the first time that I've been able to get to sit down with you, and really, I just want to kind of get a background a little bit on how you really got into this crazy sport of MMA, because everyone's story is different.
So mine's basically self-defense, right? I started when I was 16, almost 17 years old. I'd always trained a little bit at home, always watched the UFC fights when I was young. And I remember when I was 14 years old, I was watching the first ever women's fight in the UFC, Ronda Rousey versus Liz Carmouche. And I've said it before, my dad was sitting there watching the fight with me, and I was like, I didn't know women did this. And he was like, this is the first ever one in the UFC. And I was like, wow. He was like, yeah, you could do that one day. You could be the best in the world the way you were raised. And I was like, no, I don't even want to get punched in the face. Right. Flash forward, 2 more years went by. We had done some moves at home, never striking, but always like the ground game just for self-defense purposes. My dad, we would rewind and, forward on 1/10 the speed and figure out how to do an arm bar and chokes and watch YouTube videos and stuff like that. And I asked if I could go to an actual gym. And he was like, yeah, go for it. Find a way to pay for it and you can go. So he and my brother helped me cut wood, and we literally sold firewood to help me with my first gym fees for a couple months. And went to a gym, started doing jujitsu first, fell in love after just a couple weeks, right? And never looked back. I started training jujitsu all the time, every time I could after high school. Like I would go every other Thursday, which I know isn't that often, but I lived an hour to an hour and a half away. And so that was a lot for me. And I would try to go. And once I got done with school and was getting ready to move toward that town for college, I was like, I'll be here every day, the day that orientation starts for college. And my coaches were like, yeah, we'll see. And I decided I wanted to give it a shot at fighting. And I had my first ever fight 3 weeks after starting striking at all, really.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So going into your upcoming fight, there's an interesting background between you and Cheyenne Young. You guys fought in an exhibition match, I believe, in Invicta FC, and you got the submission in the first round. So now taking a look now, how with the matchup, how have you guys kind of evolved as fighters?
Yeah, so I fought Shanna back, I think it was 2019 or something, in the 3 fight in one night tournament. So she had already fought once, I'd already fought once, and then we met in the second round of the tournament, and I submitted her. I think she's grown a lot as a fighter, especially in maturity. I know she's had a kid. She's gone to the UFC. She's fought at 35 a couple times. I fought her at 25. Now here she is back at 25. Captured her first win, I believe, against Gina Mazzani a couple months ago. And now she's coming in against me. I think, I could have had a higher ranked opponent, but I'm really happy she took the fight. And a lot of people are giving me crap about not getting higher ranked. But I'm like, I don't care. I'm getting paid and I'm looking to get my next contract signed and more money, right? That's all I care about, not really the rankings right now. And for myself, luckily I was not out having a kid and I had got that many more years of experience than she did. I feel like between every single fight, I evolve as a fighter a lot. And I feel like this will be no different. Back when I fought her, I had almost zero striking skills, right? I was a really bad striker. And now I feel like one could even call me a primarily a striker, especially since my reign in the UFC, right? So I'm really excited to show how well-rounded I am in this fight and show a few new tools that I've added to my game.
So is this the last fight on your UFC deal?
Yes, this will be the last one. We already kind of renegotiated, and basically I wanted higher than the offer was, and the response was, fine, let's fight it out. So I win this fight, we might come back to the numbers I was looking for, but if not, it'll probably be closer to what he said at the beginning. So I don't think there's any question I'll be signed. That's not an issue. It's not even a concern in my mind. It's just a question of the pay.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to, since UFC London just happened, obviously there was some news between you and Molly McCann on Twitter. Just if you want to kind of give the rundown on what that was all about.
Yeah, I think she had a little bit too much holler head. I think that's primarily where it comes from, right? They asked her about me calling her out because I called her out months before this even happened, back before she took the Hannah Goldie fight. And I had asked for her. A teammate of mine had actually asked to fight her. She turned down both those fights. Or, I don't know if she was directly said, hey, Miranda Maverick wants to fight. Do you want to take that? But I know that she did take a much lesser opponent in Hannah Goldie, who doesn't even fight at 25. She fights at 115 and had lost several of her last fights. And then Molly got, what I see, handed a bum, as far as fighting record and stuff. And I think that's happened twice in a row now in front of the UK fans for a reason, to get that UK crowd going and excited for a UK native. And I plan on ending what I consider to be a fake hype train. And when she was told, Miranda and these other fighters are calling you out, she had crass, in my opinion, rude, even though all these people are like, for Liverpool, that's not rude. And I'm like, I don't care. That's rude no matter where I come from. Like, you don't do that. And she said something a little, I don't even think she meant to say it that way, but it is what it is. And I thought I had a pretty clever response to it.
I did see that on Twitter, and I did chuckle when I read it.
Yeah, pretty hilarious. And then, she hasn't responded yet. I'm sure she's regretting her words to begin with. And I doubt that I even get the fight, because the UFC seems to be like they're trying to protect her. But I love that fight. I think it'd be a barn burner. She swings. She's a big brawler. I'm pretty good on my feet too. I definitely know I'm better on the ground than her. That's no question. But people love seeing a fist fight.
Yeah, I mean, just in my humble opinion, I would definitely want to see that fight, because it seems like both of you guys as fighters, you come forward with that pressure. So it would be amazing to really see like who gives it first.
Yep.
And now shifting, I read that you I don't know if you're still studying for your PhD, but I was just kind of wondering about an update on that, because I think that is amazing that you're striving to get your PhD and you're a full-time fighter and you also have another job on top of that. So just kind of give me a little insight on that.
Yeah, so I'm not pursuing my PhD anymore. I feel like I always have to say I need to put a big bulletin up on my Instagram or something, but I'm pursuing my master's. I'm almost done with my thesis. I would be pursuing my PhD. That was pretty much my dream I went for. I had schooling paid for. I had a whole thing I had worked towards with my academics being as good as they were. And my school basically gave me an ultimatum that I could either continue fighting or I could continue my PhD. So I'm still butthurt at this point. It's not a very good subject for me to get on because I get very angry about it. It's one of those dreams that I didn't have a decision in. I was doing everything I needed to do. It wasn't based on bad grades. It wasn't based on me not keeping up with stuff. They just decided, I don't know, they wanted to take my fate into their own hands, and say that they didn't feel like they had enough free time when they were in grad school to do the stuff I was doing. And they didn't feel like I was prioritizing school, even though I was doing just as much as any of the other students on top of what I was doing.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, I think it might have been a jealousy thing. Thought about pursuing legal action and haven't, at least yet.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's interesting. And I'm always curious with professional fighters, what is your recovery process after a fight?
Well, I used to be back in the gym the next day, right? No time off. But now I take a couple days. I usually am back in the gym that next Monday, but it's a slow process, right? I'll do 1 to 2 practices instead of 4 to 5, like I'm in fight camp. And I love teaching seminars and stuff like that afterwards, kind of filling my weekends with more stuff I enjoy doing. It's still making money, still teaching, still doing martial arts, but not as high intensity. But I never really take vacations. I never really take free time or even have free time, as they say. I usually play catch up on work. My bank account's empty by the next 2 days because I always have a goal I'm working towards, and I put the money straight towards it to invest it properly. And I get right back to it. If I had the choice, I'd fight every month, but that's not an option usually.
And now you contribute a lot of your physical strength to kind of your family's farm. So I read that your family had a farm and you moved a lot. So just kind of how does that contribute to maybe your natural strength in the grappling department?
Yeah, so most people say they're from a farm, and I always chuckle because they tell me they have 2 cows and a dog, right? And I'm like, okay, that's not what I grew up knowing as a farm, right? It's more like hundreds of cattle. You're going out carrying 30 buckets a day to go feed the animals or taking the hay bales. And I never did the whole, they're like, did you bale hay? That's always everybody's thing. And I'm like, no, we didn't have 2 cows. Like, that's when you carry straw bales. Like, we had a bunch. So they're those big hay bales that you couldn't pick up if you tried. They're 3,000 pounds, right? So we did a lot of fence building and stuff. I moved around a lot because my dad would buy rural land that was basically junk land, and he would turn it into nice pasture land, build nice buildings on it and stuff, and then he'd sell it and start the next one. So when I was a kid, we were constantly building new fences, building new buildings, feeding cows, like going and chasing the cows, like whatever the case is. I was always working cardio. I was always lifting something. We'd go get tons of feed sacks, and we'd always challenge ourselves and see if we could carry 2 on our shoulders, which was 100 pounds, and I'd be 10 years old carrying 100 pounds of feed on my shoulders and dropping them and going and getting the next batch. And I don't think there's anything like that you can form from lifting weights or anything else. Holding a cow down as a kid, like they're struggling, they're yanking, and if you let them go, your life or someone else's could be in danger. So that kind of pressure on top of that kind of like feat, it's not something that you can experience in a gym or sports when you're a kid. So yeah, for sure, I think it attributes to my strength. And I think anybody who's ever fought me or trained with me would agree that I have a strength that I don't feel like I get from many other people my size.
And just one last question. So I just wanted to ask you, what is your prediction on the main event of your card? I know it's Kamaru Usman, who's the welterweight champion. He's taking on Leon Edwards for the second time. So just wondering if you had any thoughts on that matchup.
I think Usman will win.
Yeah, I mean,
I think everybody here would be mad at me too because they are kind of from my team, but I truly do. I think he'll win. I don't really think there's a question there. There's just no other math that made sense for the division. So Leon's the next one, but I'm glad they're giving him another shot.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you trained five times today, so I hope you get some rest. I hope you recover, and good luck on your fight.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good night.